first of all, welcome, and thank you for being here this evening.
Say hi, y'all.
So my first question, where were you born?
I was born in Modesto, California, believe it or not.
Really? How was that?
Interesting.
I'm going to have to draw out.
I am very proud of coming from Modesto. It was a very little town with a big mentality, and now it's a large town with a smaller-minded mentality.
Okay, so growing up at the time period that you were there, it was a lot more conservative than it is now.
Very conservative.
So, when did you discover that you were gay?
I was 13 years old.
Okay.
Well, I've always known I was gay.
Okay.
And I always knew there was something different about me. My nephew was born in July and I was born in January. He was born with blonde hair, blue eyes. I was born with brown hair, green eyes. And I liked art, dolls, decorating. He played sports. So I knew something was wrong in the woodshed.
So did you as a child experience bullying or teasing?
They hated me, to be honest, if you want me to be direct. And now that I'm an adult, I see it was not that they hated me, but it is human nature to not like what someone does not understand. So instead of reacting the way I wanted them to when I was young, they responded by making fun of me. My family sent me to a psychiatrist. Fortunately, they sent me to a gay one. And they throw a fit because we're a big southern family. We're from Huntsville, Alabama. And there was 8 of us and my mother, and they had kids because my mom had me late in life. And when you're from the South, there's just certain things you don't talk about, you don't handle, and you have family meetings. So on Sunday, we would get together, and most of the meetings was held because of me. Yeah.
Have any specific recollections?
Well, I loved wearing makeup, and when Boy George came out, of course I liked looking like Boy George. And I remember at 13, my mother would babysit all these boys in the neighborhood. Now we get down to the nitty-gritty. Get your pencils together. And there was one boy named John Lee Klein. And of course, young boys do things, and we played nasty truth or dare, stuff like that. Well, one night, he looked at me and he said, "I'm in love with you."
Uh-huh.
And I was 13, at that time, he was 16. And for some reason, his parents still thought he needed a babysitter. Go figure. And he told me he loved me. And we ended up making love that night, and we laid in bed. And my mom walked in on us. Now, I did not know this until many years later. But she walked in and seen this. So when he went home, and I commend my mother so much for handling it the way she did, because she could have ripped him out of that bed and started screaming at both of us. She didn't. And I remember saying, "Mom, I think I'm gay." And my mom said, "Choose your road wisely." She goes, "I think the one you're choosing, if I know you, is the hard one." And then later it became even worse, because then I was a gay male, but really what I was transgendered. Which, if you're transgendered, you don't understand, because you don't fit in with the gay community, you don't fit in with the straight community, you don't. So you're trying to find yourself. So I became a very bitter teenager.
But you sounds like you had the support of your mother, though.
Oh, my mother was my best friend.
And other family members, were they?
They hated me. Like I said, it's not that they hated me, they didn't understand me. They come from the South. My mother raised them completely different than me. So they were looking at me thinking, well, what do we do with him? He dresses like a girl. He
This is at 13.
decorates. At 13. By 14, I was already getting in the nightclubs before me.
Wow. So let's go back to 13. Were you going to school dressed?
No, that started at 14. 13, I was still just a confused kid.
So when you started dressing out in public, what was the reaction from?
Well, I mean, partially it was shock because I didn't immediately go into dressing like a woman. Because what I did, my father, who died when I was 7, had a flannel housecoat that went to the floor. I got that out and I pinned it all down the side with all these kilt pins that my family had. And then I backcombed my hair really big and I painted my face white. And I put red lipstick and lots of black around my eyes and a big mole. And I wore combat boots, and so I was quite a sight to see. Because I'm telling you, if I seen myself now, I'd have screamed freak out the window myself.
Was it almost like a punk style?
Yeah, it was punk.
Okay.
So you shared with
Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Similar. I never liked that show.
So you shared with me a story about how you were walking down the street and.
Well, I was downtown, and by then I'd fine-tuned it. I was 14.
Like this downtown or Modesto?
It was Modesto. And I basically was dressed in a long black dress, and I had this black wig on and lots of makeup, and this carload of fags. You gotta bear with me, I'm very liberal when it comes to words. I'm not very politically correct. But a carload of guys pulled over and they said, what are you doing dressed like this downtown in Modesto, of all places? I said, oh, get over it, you know. And they said, no, you need to get in the car because you're going to get killed. And they invited me to their show. So I went about, and back then, there was no real big computer system. So you'd go down to the records office and you'd find a child or a baby that was dead along the same age you were born. And you would fake their ID. So I was a smart cookie. I had a fake ID and then when that one got took away from me, I met this big fat guy in Fresno. And I could pass as him. So I had a fake ID my whole time. And then I was an entertainer, so being an entertainer, I got in everywhere.
And those relationships with those ladies, how important were they?
They became my family. Because up until then, I was a mean person. I'd beat the hell out of you if you even looked at me wrong. But they kind of guided me, got me into things. I still refused to be called a drag queen at the time. I was like, oh, drag queens wear black eyeshadow. I don't do that.
Well, part of the reason why we're able to present our voice is from a generous grant from the City of Stockton Arts Commission. So let's talk a little bit about, first, the history of drag in general, and then we'll get into more specifics about the history of drag in Stockton and San Joaquin County. So if I were to ask you, Stonewall, what would...
Okay, basically, originally drag was considered blasphemous towards women. It was considered that we as homosexual men were making fun of women. But in all actuality, what we were doing, we were endearing the qualities of women and promoting them through our shows. So Stonewall was a bar. It was the Stonewall Inn. And up until then, it was regular routine for cops to go into bars and basically harass everybody. They would go in, they would take your IDs, they would write your address down, they would drive by your home, they would follow you. Drag queens, when they left the bar, had to remove their wig. We had to wear 3 pieces of male clothing at all times, anywhere we went. And they were allowed to strip search you. They were allowed to degrade you. They was allowed to beat you, to do anything they wanted because you were beneath what a normal human being was. Well, Judy Garland happened to die. And she was one of the first mothers of the gay culture. Because basically, Judy Garland was the first star to promote openly her gay